Welcome back, Hononegah Honors, Algebra 2. Today we're going to do 7.5 solving rational equations. So now we're going to need an equal sign. We're going to actually solve these questions that have fractions in them. So cross multiply is the first one. This only applies if you have fraction equaling a fraction. So if you have a fraction equaling another fraction, you can cross multiply to solve. So again, this only applies if you have a fraction equaling a fraction. So if you don't have that, then we're going to have to talk about what else to do. So here's the first one. Fraction equaling a fraction. So I want 2 times 3x plus 2. I'm going to show my work here a little bit better than I sometimes do. So 2 times 3x plus 2 and 10 times x plus 2. Now it's just an Algebra 1 question. You need to get the x's on the same side. And then subtract 20, I get negative 14. And I get x to be negative 7/2, or negative 3.5. You can write it as a fraction or as a decimal. That doesn't matter. But if you have a fraction equaling a fraction, then you can cross multiply to solve. But if you do not, now you have to solve by using the least common denominator. When the rational equation is not expressed as a proportion, you can solve it by multiplying each side of the equation by the least common denominator of the rational expressions. Be sure to check your extraneous solutions by checking the solutions with the original equation. And we'll get into that in just a little bit. So here we go. Sorry about the interruption there. The common denominator in this case is 4 and x. So anytime you have a equation in which you are trying to solve, you must multiply everything in the problem by the common denominator, or both sides by the common denominator. I'm going to rewrite this just a little bit so I have more space to show my work. So 4x is the common denominator. So every single term in the question is going to get multiplied by 4x. And what's going to happen is all fractions will be canceled, meaning something with the common denominator will cancel with any denominator with a fraction if you have a common denominator, and then multiply what's left after you cancel. So the 4 cancels, I'm left with 7 times x. The x cancels, I'm left with negative 9 times 4. And now notice that the problem that you have left is no longer has any fractions. Well, if it doesn't have any fractions anymore, now I could just do it just like I did back when I was in Algebra 1. And so x would equal negative 8. Now, you'll notice that it said something about extraneous solutions. Here's what that means. If your answer would ever cause a denominator to be 0, then that answer can't occur because you cannot divide by 0. Since negative 8 doesn't cause any problem to any of the fractions, we're good to go. That answer is fine. Multiply everything in the problem by the common denominator. Well, I have to figure out what the common denominator then in this question. So this one is a binomial, and the x is not. So I need to multiply everything by an x and an x minus 5. With that being said, the first one, nothing cancels. There was no fraction. So I'm going to take 1 times x and then distribute it. So I'm going to get x squared minus 5x. This one, the x minus 5 cancels, so I'm left with negative 8 times x. And that is a common mistake, is to forget about the fact that that is a negative 8. And then the x's cancel. I'm left with 3 times x minus 5. Now I no longer have a situation in which I have a fraction. How do I solve this question? Well, it's a quadratic. And I got to minus another 8x, so x squared minus 16x plus 15 equals 0. And now I factor it. X minus 15, x minus 1, and I set those equal to 0, and I solve. So x is equal to 1, and x is equal to 15. Always double check, does your answer cause any issues to the denominator, making it 0? That is, both of these answers are good. Next one. In order to establish what the common denominator is, I am going to need to factor any denominator. And so the common denominator in this case would be x minus 3 and x plus 3. So every single one of these is going to get multiplied by x minus 3 and x plus 3. Again, why am I doing this? I'm trying to get rid of the denominator. So the x minus 3's cancel, and I multiply what's left. The whole thing cancels, so I'm just left with 8x squared. X plus 3 cancels. Don't forget that's negative. So negative 4x squared plus 12x. Now, I see an x squared in the question, so I need to get everything on one side and combine all the like terms. So 8x squared minus 4x squared would be 4x squared. Subtract 6x and subtract 18. Now, there is a GCF here. So when I go to factor this, I can actually make the numbers a little bit smaller. So 2x squared plus 3x minus 9. So 2x and x, factors of 9. I'm doing guess and check here. So a positive 3 times a negative 3. Now, solving this, setting everything equal to 0. So 2x minus 3 equaling 0. X would equal positive 3 halves. I'm going to write it over here. And then x plus 3 equaling 0, x is equal to negative 3. Not so fast. If I plug negative 3 into the denominator, that makes that one 0. So negative 3 is an extraneous solution and must be crossed off. It is something that cannot work. But the 3 halves does work. Homework assignment tonight is out of the book. This can be a little bit challenging for some individuals. Make sure you multiply everything by the common denominator to get rid of the fractions. If you have any questions, make sure you talk to your teacher, and good luck.